Hi, I am Melissa Banko, and welcome to the Banko Buzz, a commercial interior design podcast. As a professional leader in our design industry, we found that there were a lot of questions that were coming to me and to us about business and growth and mentorship and really the people behind the design. So we created the Banko Buzz. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us on the Banko Buzz. Hi, and welcome back to the Banko Buzz, a commercial interior design podcast. I have on the show today, Miss Dana. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm Melissa Banko. I'm the principal founder and crazy visionary here at Banko Design. We are a commercial interior design firm out of Marietta, Georgia, just outside Atlanta. We are focusing on senior living, multifamily, and private club work. And I have the honor of getting to work with you quite often. So we're super stoked that you're here to talk to us today. Our podcast is built on highlighting our core values here at Banko Design. And tenacity is one of our core values. So when we were thinking about some of our most favorite partners that we love to hang out with, and tenacity was the episode that we needed to fill, you absolutely came to mind. So we're super excited to have you here today to just hang out and chat and have a little fun. We're gonna kick off the episode with a little game. But first, will you tell our Banko Bees, which is who are calling our listeners here, who are you, what do you do, and how do I know you, and give us a little intro on you.
So I'm flattered to be chosen for tenacity. Sometimes I don't feel quite tenacious, but it made me feel very flattered and honored.
We're going to unpack that later.
That's right.
I knew you were going to say that. Go ahead.
Humility is a big part of it. So there you go. Getting there already. But so I'm Dana Miner with Encore. I'm the VP of Strategic Sales. So I help with a lot of our national accounts, develop product for the different verticals, help a lot of reps with their national accounts. The critical thinking part of my brain that I love, I get to make that hurt.
Yeah.
The creative part, that gets to hurt.
Yeah.
And I get to work with a great team. And so that's what I do at Encore. We're a family-owned company. I'd say we have the most diverse portfolio for custom carpet as well as running line carpet. We've got some resilient as well. An awesome team behind us, awesome reps. And so we just kind of get to try to make sure that people have a great experience and they want to do it again. So
we're going to you for all things carpet and resilient flooring. So we're working on a lot of great projects with you, and you've just been such an advocate for us and our company and our portfolio. So we just adore you.
Likewise, what I'd like to say, I met you
yes.
as a baby designer.
Yes.
When I was a baby rep.
Was I at
TBS? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Young mama, and I was a bewildered young salesperson.
Bewildered. Does it feel like a million years ago?
It feels like a million years ago and like yesterday.
Yeah. I'm in that same spot.
Yeah, it's like warp speed. I didn't age, just a lot of time happened.
Well, I know. It was a lot of less Botox ago. So.
And a lot of experiences.
Yeah.
So,
We have learned a lot. We truly have. It's been a wild ride. So we've known each other for a long time. We get to work with each other now, which is great. Okay, so on the note of carpet, we're gonna play a little game, and I'm gonna quiz you on some carpet things.
Okay.
And I had to double check, do I know these things? So I'm going to ask you these questions, and I have so much confidence that you know these things that I'm going to play the drinking game alongside you. So we have our little bee's knees drink in front of us. We have a lot of beverages for those that can't see us right now, but we don't want to disclose what's in each. This might be water. It might be coffee. This might be a mocktail. It might not be. Okay. So we're super stacked and hydrated today. Yeah. On the Banko Buzz. Okay, so I'm going to go through and ask you these questions, and if you get it wrong, we have to drink. Okay? It's kind of delicious, too, so maybe I want you to get some of these wrong. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready for anything.
How many different colored yarns can Infinity Carpet have?
4.
Oh, you're so smart. How many different color yarns can Color Point Carpet have?
Ooh.
Is that a trick question?
It depends.
Yeah, I don't know when I read.
Everything kind of depends. 8, technically.
Okay. 10? Can it go up to 10?
Different machines, different iterations. Ours can technically go up to 8.
Okay. Can we drink to that?
Sure. Okay. Sure, man. We can do anything.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Try not to spill it.
Okay, this one's not about carpet. Brat Summer refers to an album by which British pop artist, you know?
Excuse me?
There's some pop culture in here. Brat Summer, I don't even know what that is. Refers to an album by which British pop star? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What what type of carpet is not like a carrot where it's dyed all the way through? What type of carpet is like a radish, not dyed all the way through?
Okay.
What type of carpet is like a carrot?
So
might have read that wrong
solution
first.
dyed nylon, I think is what
Is the
you're
ca- yes,
asking. It's
is
like a
the
carrot. The
carrot.
color,
All the way through.
the pigment is added in the molten form, so it's extruded the colors all the way through.
And the type of carpet that's like a radish, because when you cut through, it's just that surface.
Anything that is post-dyed.
Got it.
And there are lots of techniques to do that. But it's not so much like the radish and the carrot anymore. It's more like the carrot and the carrot.
Oh,
Dye methods have gotten a lot better.
okay. Well, look at us. Like, we're
I
evolving.
know.
And
And we've
doing
taken all the
thing.
nasty stuff out.
Which is great
so-
because that's what we get questions about all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's another pop culture question. I wonder if your little guy is using some of these words that I have to Google.
Oh, geez.
Okay, you ready? What is the Gen Z slang word "riz" short for?
Isn't it like to have swagger, like have style?
Yeah, but like charisma.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
Cheers.
He just turned 9. He's not cool
Yeah,
yet.
my
okay?
guy's a little
Yeah.
ahead of your guy. So
This is
I did.
delicious, by the way.
Yeah, it is really
Yeah.
good.
Thanks,
I kind
Steph.
of want you to get all the things wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the most expensive type of carpet to be woven?
Ah.
Most expensive. I could have told you this because when I asked for pricing, I'm like, not doing that.
Depends on quantities.
Okay.
I would say hand knotted stuff is the most expensive,
Okay.
but Axminster's typically a little bit pricier than some of the tufted goods, but that's really changing that dynamic. We offer both, which is really cool, so we can speak directly to that.
Yeah.
And not have to kind of talk around
But
anything.
quantity is the game, right?
Quantity is the
Classic
game with everything.
We
yeah.
have Axminster.
We set those machines up. If they can run, we
Yeah.
spread that setup cost across a lot of yards, small quantities. We have to spread it across
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but there's that gap between the, solution dyed products and the woven wools and things. It really has kind of come neck and neck. So different capabilities, different strokes. We do it all.
Love it. This is why I call you when I need
Yeah.
all the carpet things. Okay. Carpet. So this was a big one for us here at Banko because we do a lot of senior living. So our carpet pile has to meet that ADA compliancy. So how high, what is the max thickness that carpet can be?
So it's usually 1/4 of an inch, but it's more about the transition. So if the carpet is thicker or the flooring is thicker or thinner, you just have to really carefully manage that transition. So,
Yes.
and that's one where I would recommend really, people matter. That's going to be a big theme for me today.
Mm-hmm.
People. Get to know people that can help coach you through that. If you're a designer and you feel insecure about important things like that, your reps should be consultants. That's what we're here for. That's literally what we're here for. That's our job, is to help you. So let us help you.
Where are the Olympics being held this year?
France.
Yeah. Are you watching? What's
So
your
I
favorite thing
had to admit this. This is an embarrassing admission. I have not been watching them.
We've been watching it at work.
I heard.
We
I
watched
heard.
gymnastics yesterday.
I know you were supposed to be on a call with me, and you were watching.
Well, I know it's because Taylor made me, but it was really interesting and lovely to watch such tenacious people.
That's right. That's right.
All right, we're gonna dive in and just hang out and chat. How does that sound?
Fun. That was fun too.
Okay, I mean, yeah, we're
I'm
just
gonna
gonna
keep
sip on this little cocktail that we have here. So thank you for playing my little game. That was
Yeah,
fun as a
that was
little
fun.
kickoff. We're getting buzzed here.
Mm-hmm.
It's the theme. We picked you to come hang out for Tenacity because we feel like you really embody it. What is having tenacity? What does that mean to you? What is to be tenacious? What is that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I was younger, I used to say if I had to stock shelves at a drugstore, I would find a way to be intense about that. So I think some of it is personality driven.
Like just the way you're born.
Yeah, I do think some of it is that. And I also think it's experiencing hardship, having to solve problems, and, had some challenges growing up. And I think that has served me well. Like there's, some of my glimmer and sparkle, I think, comes from some pretty hard things. And then just like having some successes, figuring things out yourself, either as a little kid or as a teen or as an adult, and then kind of getting to recognize how that feels.
Do we learn more from when things go awry? or not as planned, or do we learn more from planning things out and being really organized and things always going the way that we want them to? How do you feel like we learn?
I think it depends.
Best as a whole.
I think it depends. So like our CEO, he's an over preparer, and he is going to make everything go in a certain way. And I'm the opposite. I can wing it. I can figure things out, and we're really effective together. For me, and my son's, one of his baseball coaches says, if we're not winning, we're learning. So I kind of, my natural, the way I think the answer is different for everybody. But for me, I think I learn more from failure, or, kind of having to dig deeper and figure things out. And I think there are other people that are more effective other ways. But for me, that's the most effective.
So let's peel back a little bit. So you've worked in the industry for how long? A while.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah. Where did you go to school? Like, you come out of high school, what was your path out of high school? Did you think that if you were to look forward 20 years, that you would look at yourself as a high schooler and say, yeah, that totally makes sense that I'm
going to be
doing
selling carpet in Georgia, to these
like,
amazing
did you
designers.
ever think,
No.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
So I grew up in Delaware.
Okay.
And I never envisioned a career. I never dreamed of owning a home, having a family. I didn't really guess at that stuff. I just kind of was like, let's do this. I was ready to be an adult very young. I was like, I was always ready for the next thing. But out of high school, I took the safe route. I applied early to University of Delaware. Initially, I wanted to go into psychology, and very quickly in school, I realized I wanted to go, and I added criminal justice. And so
Have we talked about this? I was a psych major too.
Yeah.
Okay, we must be masochists
Yeah,
together. Okay,
right.
Trying to understand people.
I know, what the hell, people. And then I added art history, and sociology, whatever, It's like, so I was already a little, all over the place, but had lots of interest. Loved learning, still do. Nerd to my core, and I love that about myself. I think I've gifted that to my son, for good or for bad. But wanted to become a lawyer, and I wanted to be a prosecutor and become a judge, and I really was like, I can affect change, and I'm not a lawyer. And I would say that everything that I've predicted, if you would have given me a crystal ball at that time, and I reflect on this often, every big idea I had for myself, almost all of them didn't happen, and I couldn't be more grateful that things didn't go my way, or that I made a big scary choice and it yielded really good results. So for me, kind of the not predicting, turned into this really big, here I went from not dreaming of anything, and then like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. That's kind of a big deal. That's a big investment of time, energy, but it was like, I've got my brain, my critical thinking, I can do this. And then I did a study abroad program, and I met a boy. And then I had to finish school, and we maintained a relationship. And after that, I chose not to go to law school. I had been doing a lot of going to courts, going to prisons, getting to know law a lot better. And I felt like, I don't know that I actually can impact that much change. And so I took a risk, and I went with my heart. And that's not my go-to jam. And that was a really critical pivot point in my life. And kind of started this trajectory of like accepting the heart part of me, not just the head part.
As a younger Dana, think that you want to be a lawyer, you land in this, this industry, you have this path forward. What has been the hardest thing in your journey to date? Like, what do you look back on in your life and you're like, I can't fucking believe I lived through that. Like, that was
You made me too.
hard. That was hard. Or there's not always just one thing in our life, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, there's a series of things that has made me like who I am, and it's hardened me a little bit, but softened me a little bit. And it really does sculpt who we are as adults. And then as like a circle back, it shapes us how we are as leaders and as teammates and as mentors and as CEOs. So when you look back now, still very young and vibrant, what do you look back and you're like, how did I do it? Like, and then I'm going to ask you, how you think you did it. So like, what's been the hardest thing or hardest things?
Well, I would say there's two big ones. I have the professional answer, and then I have the personal answer.
But aren't they interwoven? So
I mean, and they kind of were concurrent, but one of them was loving what I did, being top class, and then the company changing so much. And then it just like kind of got squeezed out, and it just wasn't a culture fit. But I am so loyal. And, I was talking before this, the job I had all through high school and college, I worked at the same place from when I was 14 to 21, right? So I am loyal, I am devoted, I am hardworking, and like it wasn't a fit anymore. And I had to face that. And that was really, really hard for me because I'm all in.
And it's hard when the decision is made for you.
Yeah.
And not one that you feel like you made yourself. We've all been through that in
right.
this industry where it's cyclical. I've been laid off during downturns, and it's jolting. Like when a decision is made for you like that, because you didn't plan for it. And as type A, we plan for the things.
Yeah.
So, okay. So sorry to go back, but
No.
that's hard, right?
This whole like relating to one another is like important to everyone.
This is like us at Max.
That's right.
It's a plug for Max.
No, that's right.
Best drinks in Marietta. So this is like us just.
And the raw bar is like
so good.
Being at home in Delaware for me. Food.
Okay. So.
So I would say
you're looking back.
So that was hard, but again, the theme that I talked about before, that decision was kind of made for me. It was becoming apparent that it was being made for me. It opened up this opportunity for me. And I say like being a baby rep when we met, that was the most fun part of my career. This is my favorite part of my career, like so profoundly. And then the other personal part that was such a challenge was caregiving for my husband and passing away. I'm gonna cry. And it was such an honor to be able to do that. And, during that time, you don't always get to show people how much you love them. And I got to do that. And we had fun till the end. And then he was gone. And I got these 2 babies, right? And, I went through a divorce as a salesperson. I went through the death of, birth of my children, marriage, death of a husband. And those things helped me understand that customers actually cared about me, and I didn't have to be perfect, and I didn't have to know all the things. And I think until I started having those chinks in my armor and letting people see them, I really thought I was just supposed to be perfect and know everything and keep it business and professional. And it was through those things I learned people really cared. They rallied around me. They supported me. This lady, people wanted to give us lots and lots of food, and I appreciate all the gestures. Melissa showed up with a box from Costco of food my little children could eat, flowers in a pot that weren't going to die on my counter, like real healthy food, and a couple bottles of my favorite wine, just like with no anything. They just showed up. I didn't have to do anything with it, and it was awesome. And lots of people did wonderfully generous things for us during that time. But yeah, it was just, I was really surprised. And I tried not to talk too much. He had colon cancer. I tried not to weigh everybody down about it. And I didn't want to bum people out. I wanted to talk about the joyful stories about Ben. He was an amazing father. And I didn't really account for the support I could have used. And I think a lot of people felt betrayed that they didn't know quite how sick he was, because he was so alive until he wasn't, and he fought ferociously. Every other week we were in an infusion room, and I called it my office day, and I would be working away in an infusion room. And, and then fast forward, we've got babies. So now we're in an infusion room, I'm working and I'm pumping, so it's just all these bizarre things that you just do in your life that are so hard, and you don't always know that they're hard.
Why, if you could go back, you were caregiving for Ben, you were like still hustling and doing all the things. Would you go back and change the way that you did or didn't open up to people?
Yes. Yeah.
Would you open up more?
Yes.
Why do you think in reflectance that you didn't?
I really, really, Ben was so joyful. We were having such a great, despite cancer, we were having a really good time.
He was a vibrant dude.
Right? Exactly. Right. So, and he to the end was like, miracles can happen, right? We see the labs, we see all these things. And so he was eternally optimistic. And I think I wanted to kind of honor that.
Yeah.
But what I didn't do enough of is caregive for myself. And so that, I think I could have afforded a little bit more support. And also I think people wouldn't have felt so blindsided, like they knew something was up. But also, listen, I didn't want to talk about cancer everywhere I went. I didn't want people to be like, oh, there's Dana. Like, I love what I do. I love the people I get to do it with, do it for, and like, that's kind of my jam. So that was it too, is like, at my core, like, I enjoy this and I want to be joyful. So like, I could have balanced it better.
I think you said something great, which I think a lot of leaders and just folks who are grinding, I didn't want to sort of bring that personal side into things. I didn't want to share that. I need to be looked at as strong. Do you think that that's because we're women? Do you feel like we think about that differently and more, that we have to be stronger because girls are, maybe a little more fragile and we cry and we need to be looked at stronger? Do you think that that's just a common thread regardless of your gender, that when you get to a certain point in your life as a parent, as a CEO, as a VP, or whatever it is, whatever title you're holding, do you feel like that's because we're females, or do you think that that's everybody who gets self-conscious, like, I can't share my personal stuff because that's just not right, that I don't want to look vulnerable, any of that?
I think a lot of mine comes from struggling with low self-esteem, and that's gotten less and less of an issue for me. But I think a lot of it was that, like, I didn't want to bum people out. I didn't want to weigh them down. I didn't want to take their time, things like that. You guys have business to tend to. You've got fees and, I don't need to eat into that, but people really care. And so, but I don't think it was because I was female. I do think that I have had a lot of business exchanges where women are accused of being emotional, and I've been around highly emotional men, and there's no comment,
Yeah.
But I would say I joke sometimes that I conduct business like a man. I typically don't cry. I cry about my husband passing away and like tearing up about family things and things like that. But at work, I boss, and like, it's a shame that I have to say it like that. And sometimes I even apply that thinking, like, what would a man do? How would a man handle this situation? And I kind of encourage other women to think of that. I would say that I'm a feminist, but not at the expense of men, right? Like, I'm pro-female and pro-male. Boom.
Pro-human. Yeah.
Yes, right. And all the things, right? And so, but sometimes gender is real. And, and so there are times I have to apply that thing. And I've mentored some other women and younger women that way too. And not about you have to be like a man, but like really reflect on that. Like, what is that difference? And then notice that difference. So it's not really like you have to do business like a man. It's like, oh,
I don't want to do business like a man. I want to do business as a really strong woman.
Right.
I want the confidence.
But what's
of
the
man
thing? It's not really like, oh, I have to imitate that. It's like, really, what is that kind of issue?
But we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of others. And I think that that's something that leaders do struggle with. And the days are long, and the email list is long, and the to-do list is long, and the people who need us day to day, that list is long. And if you're exhausted and you're not taking care of yourself, you burn the fuck out. Yeah. So what do you do when it gets heavy? Like, what do you do when it gets hard? Are there days where you look at yourself and you're like, I can't, like, I need a day. I don't know that I can do this anymore. Like, what keeps you going, grinding, being an amazing mom, being an amazing partner, to all of these great designers all around town? So what keeps you going? Like, what do you do when it gets too heavy?
Like, hype people like you. I mean, back to the people thing. It's who you surround yourself with. And I would say that my tribe has gotten smaller, but it's gotten much deeper. And so, and I say to my kids all the time, like, how do we set ourselves up for success? And I think the older I've gotten, I've been able to deal with a lot of things. You have these new, these layers and layers of experiences and things. And so I think I get less freaked out as often. It does happen. I think anybody that says that that's not the way that it's that they don't get overwhelmed is lying. There's an analogy, and people have heard me say this before. It's like if you pour a soda into a glass, like in sales, you want it to be right at the top, right? Like, you don't want to pour over because then you can't manage it. But then it's decreasing, you need to fill it back up. So it's like finding that balance. You got to feel every day, right? Like, don't look at my fingernails. They haven't been painted. But like, I'm, and I've tried to do a new tiny habit where I wake up and the first thing I do when I put my feet on the ground, it's teeny tiny habit, one sun salutation. Now that may turn into doing a 45-minute workout that may turn into one sentence salutation. And there may be some days I forget, but to just and celebrate those little successes. Day 2 of school, we went to bed on time. We got to school early. We had the things we needed. You know what?
You're like, I'm winning. I think I might be winning today.
Monday, maybe a different story, but to just give yourself so much grace. And I wish if I got to talk to the teenage version of myself, I would say 2 things. Number 1, give yourself all the grace. You're fucking amazing. Stop it. Stop it right now. You're amazing. The other thing is, nobody's looking at you. Don't worry about it. And what I love about today, about these days is being an individual, being unique is celebrated. And I think when we were younger, everybody was a little bit more trying to be very similar. And so I do love that being unique, being an individual is so celebrated now. But those are 2 things I would tell my younger self. But yeah, I get overwhelmed and I don't always good at the caregiving. And I have a tendency to put other people first.
It's not about quality.
Right. But, to every positive quality, there's an underbelly, right? Like, I'm very positive. Sometimes I don't let things go early enough. They really have to go bad for me to be like, you know what, that's enough. Sometimes I do too much for other people. And I'm learning all of these things. I have too much energy. It can be very annoying,
I enjoy it.
I'm not for everybody. and I'm okay with that. I didn't used to be okay with that. And so no, I think it's the people you surround yourself, setting yourself up for success. And, I avoided leadership like the plague for
Why?
the longest time because I didn't have the confidence. But the other thing is, I think, I joke in sales like making the cash register ring. And the last transition I made, it was like, I'm making the cash register ring, but I didn't feel in alignment with the purpose, right? And now I feel in great alignment with the purpose. I feel very heard. And now I am working among some of the most creative, dynamic human beings that are so different to me. And that's the other thing, a big theme in my life lately, at the baseball field, at school, at work, in my friend group, is I think some people want to find people that are just like them. And I kind of seek the opposite. And so that's helping make a lot of things make sense. But now I work with a team that if I fall, they will pick me up. And that was what led me to be willing to be open up to, and also I felt like, hang on a second, I'm kind of blocking a bigger opportunity or way that I can contribute to the company by not leaning into this.
So are you comfortable with leadership now?
I am.
And why is that? Is it because you have a team that will
Not
rally
only-
around you?
Not only would they pick me up if I fell down, I don't think they'd ever let me fall down. And if I mess up, sometimes I'm like, and I get defensive of them too, like, don't abuse the staff. But sometimes I think they're too defensive of me. Like if I make a mistake and I'm like, I made a mistake.
No, it was
they're
me,
like,
I did it.
They're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, no, I really did.
Then let me learn from it.
Yeah.
Please.
So it's kind of adorable sometimes. We get along really well. It's like lightning in a bottle. I keep reminding them as we are growing exponentially and explosively, and thanks to our group in an organized and controlled way as well, which that's magic in and of itself. But as we get bigger and bigger and bigger, how do we maintain that culture? Like, that's incredibly important for me because I need to go on an airplane and leave my babies, and I want to have a blast doing it. And I want them to see me having a blast doing it. And, they love to know what mommy does. And, when my husband passed away, people said, oh, are you going to sell the house? It's just you. First of all, it's me and these 2 tiny humans and our
And they get bigger.
and our menagerie of animals too. So no, we're not moving. But also, people would say, "Are you going to keep working?" And it was like, okay, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Number 1, I have to. Number 2, I fucking love it and I'm awesome at it. And if you don't know that, then I feel like you kind of don't know me. And then number 3, I want to model that for my children. What does it look like to work hard, love it, be rewarded? We've been on a bunch of trips this summer, probably too many.
No such thing.
Yeah, right. But life is short, make it count. One of my biggest mottos, and I should probably get a tattoo of it, is work hard, play hard. It's an overused phrase, but I believe that I embody it. And like, what else is the point?
Well, speaking of tattoos, you and I got tattooed together, not matching. That'd be super weird.
That would have been
But
weird. Funny. We should have done a prank.
we
and
should have done a prank of just like matching tattoos.
Yes.
And like, that's so weird.
Yeah, they were like, that's weird. Just
But I
kidding.
was like, hey, do you want to meet for dinner? Dana and I have always met and sort of done gut checks with each other of like, hey, how you doing? And even though we're leading different businesses, there are so many parallels to what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. This is what this is what came up. It might be a personnel thing. It might be a financial thing. It might be a whatever. And to have the trust with somebody and the comfortableness to be able to like ping pong off is really awesome. So it was like, hey, do you want to meet for dinner? Yeah. Hey, do you want to go get tattoos? It's like, sure, why not?
Right. Well, also
Marietta.
you were a really great listener because I had been saying that I had
really
wanted to do
wanna
it.
do this.
So I didn't ever want a tattoo, ever. And then when my husband passed away, I was like, I need to have something on my body, like for me and the kids, like a physical reminder he is with us always. And you helped me do that. And
So
I wouldn't have been.
And that was like right before the pandemic.
Yes, we got it right in there.
We slid in there.
Yeah, we got it right. And so, funny story, Melissa was going to have her children's birthdays, and Dave was like,
Don't put that sensitive information on your body.
those are all like passwords and answers, and don't do that.
Yeah, so it's their initials.
That's
I got
right,
my
that's
baby's initials, and that was a good why reminder for me. So I got the kids' initials on my left arm and a cross on my right, two of my very big whys. Okay, so tell the Banko Bees, tell our listeners what tattoo you got, why you got it, where you got it, because I think that's sweet, the location.
No.
And the bigger question too is, what is your why? Like, what keeps you going? You know, sometimes we really need to just sit with ourselves and be quiet and remind ourselves why we do what we do. So tell the Banko Bees what we got tatted.
Yeah.
And you got it in a really sensitive spot.
Right. Well, the gal that saw us was, helped us was probably 20 years old, wisp of thing, cool. I felt so inadequate. She was like cool, exuded from her pores, right? And I'm like, hey, middle-aged mom here. What's up? And so I wanted to have my husband lived in Texas when we met. We dated long distance. And he would write me letters, but he had really bad handwriting, so it would take me a long time to read them. And so I had one of his letters, and he also had a buddy with a tattoo gun in the military or college, I don't remember which, but they gave him a tattoo. He never knew what it meant. It was in his armpit. So I teased him about his bad handwriting and his armpit tattoo.
Yeah.
And now I have an armpit tattoo of his terrible writing. Like, what is the matter with me? But I wanted a reminder for me and for the kids. And I thought it would be a really discreet place. And because I toyed with putting it somewhere very visible, and I was like, I want to keep this for us. And now it's more of a peekaboo thing, but it sparks conversation. And I love a chance to get to talk about him. And there's a lot of life ahead for the kids and I. And you never have to move on. But you can keep going forward, right? And so that was one of the things I learned. You never have to move on. Like, oh, you should move on. Like, first of all, don't give people advice. Don't give people advice about their grief. Okay.
Don't listen to anything that we're saying.
Yeah. But let people have their own grief, and you have yours, man. But you get to move forward. And I just wanted them to remember that Daddy loves them no matter what. You can see it on Mama's body. He loved me before. We created you with so much love, and that he loves me. That love exists. And but I would say that my why is just being able to apply my critical thinking. Like, that is what kind of gets me off. I don't know if this is on topic, and maybe if you want to tee up a different question.
Say whatever the fuck you want.
But there was a really pivotal part of my parenting. So Ben was a very natural, easy dad. He was the primary caregiver for Bo, owned a business, was more successful, co-owned a business, I should say, far more successful, lucrative. And he was caregiving for Bo. Like, what'd you guys do today? Oh, we went to P.F. Chang for lunch and Home Depot and the bank. And then on his nap, I had a call. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't even know if I could take him to the grocery store yet. Like, I'm terrified. How did you do that? And so it seemed so easy for him. And I was really insecure. I had to read a lot of books. I had to talk to a lot of friends. And, and we didn't grow up near siblings that we both were only children that have wonderful step siblings, but we didn't get to grow up near their kids, and I have wonderful cousins that are like siblings to me, but I didn't live nearby them and stuff. So I was a really inadequate, insecure parent. And I also was saying these things like, I'm not very creative. and I just want my kids to be average. That's awful, right? That's awful. But, as a parent, you become a parent, you're like, I don't want
But
them.
where was that coming from?
So, again, insecurities, this
Okay.
is very vulnerable, right? Like, it's like things I would say out loud, though, and they have shown me that they're great in their own little ways, in big ways. And it was kind of terrifying to me because that was starting to creep up. Like, my 6-year-old son, I never told him Daddy liked baseball. I didn't want him to feel pressured. And then at 6, he said, I want to play baseball. And he went out there. He knew how to do it. Like, who told you,
It's instilled in him.
And then he said, and of course I'm sobbing behind sunglasses, and he is so fearless of big things, but I was worried he was a wallflower, and sports helped him come out of his shell. So I'm like, okay, you're doing the thing. And then he said, Mommy, I want to do all-star baseball. I'm like, oh, honey, you can try. You're not going to make it. He made it.
So are your kids tenacious?
Yes.
Do they get that from you?
Different ways. I hope so. But I think they get it from the whole, part of the greatest gift as a parent that we have and duty, I think, is to help with select the people that imprint upon our children. And so I think, yes, directly from me, but hopefully they learn all these other things that Mommy has and Mommy doesn't have.
But that's what's great about building community around your kids too.
Yeah.
It's the things that we lack, whether you have a spouse or not, or you're together or not, or whatever that is. It's just who we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
And like you said, alike, not alike, I do think you're an incredibly tenacious person. I think that you are driven. I think that you, nothing holds you down. We all can have those cycles where it feels like it's heavy, but I just admire that you keep going, and I admire that you talk through it and that you're willing to work on yourself. And I don't think that everybody's so open for that.
Well, so I think that's a lot of it. You paid me one of the biggest compliments that I've ever received in a hot tub. Weird. Is that weirder than matching tattoos or less weird? I don't know.
So Melissa and Dana are dating.
Yeah. We'd be a cute couple at least.
What did I give you?
So you said
Sometimes
to me,
you don't even know that you're giving it out, and look, you'd leave an imprint.
yeah, and it was like, look, the thing about you, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this.
We were probably getting buzzed then too.
Probably. And you said, whatever you say you're going to do, you do it.
It's true.
And I, at the time I was like, well, what are you talking about?
Because
What's the other
some
choice?
people say it and don't follow up, and I think that
Yeah.
I know that you do. So that's the
Yeah, but
that's the trust, and that's what good relationships are built off of. You've got it. You say you're going to do it, and you get it done. So.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly, people forget things, but I do feel tenacious, and that whole parenting thing about not, wanting my kids to, wanting them to just be average. Ew. And that was from a place of protection, you don't want them to do anything hard. You don't want them to be rejected.
Or
you
to
don't-
fall.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So my son wanted to do the baseball. Well, I don't know how to do baseball. I can't throw them. I'll get hurt, And I went to an NEWH leadership conference. There was a guest speaker. It was the best guest speaker I've had the opportunity to listen to because it hit home at the right exact moment. And I also was saying, I'm not creative. It was this guy, Chase Jarvis. He was, this up and coming, handsome, athlete, going to go to med school. Obviously, his grandfather passed away and left him some cameras. And he's like, you know what, folks? Instead of doing that, I'm going to go to take pictures of my friends doing cool shit that I love. And so he started doing that. Well, now he's this famed photographer, famed author, paid guest speaker, and what listening to him helped me learn about myself is creativity doesn't have to be glue and popsicle sticks and glitter. For me, it's critical thinking. And that helped me lean into being open up to being a leader and, obviously being with those safe, the team that's going to help make sure that I'm not going to fall. And if I fall, they're going to help pick me up.
Right.
And I would do the same for them in a millisecond.
Well, and it's instilling that in your kids too. I mean, I've got kiddos who are a little bit older than you, but we get that as parents, right? It's not fair I didn't make this team, or it's not. And my answer back to them, and I think on some level how I operate during the day is don't be mad, be better.
Yeah.
If we didn't make it, that's okay. Not everybody's going to get a freaking ribbon, not everybody's going to get a seat on the bench. So,
if we're not winning, we're learning.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, okay. So thank you for sharing and for talking through all that. Which of your kiddos is more like you?
Allegedly, my daughter looks just like me.
She does. She does.
But she acts just like her daddy.
Yeah.
My son looks an awful like a
Yes,
lot like
he
his
does.
daddy, right?
Yes, he's so handsome.
But he's a lot like me.
Yeah.
He's
Isn't this cool that we've like created these many, and they're a good culmination of both. And I
yeah,
think
but they're not afraid to do hard things. They both, like my daughter will get up on a stage and perform.
Where do you think she's learning that from?
I know.
Okay.
See,
Yes, your children are adorable. So there is a lot of grit and a lot of tenacity. There is a lot of heart that goes behind being a badass rep. And you're a badass rep. And you are a badass salesperson. And you are such a great partner to do business with. What advice would you give to others who are looking at you and saying, I want to be her. I want to be that badass salesperson. Like, how do they need to be built? What do they need to focus on? What makes an awesome sales rep?
Well, I think whether you're selling flooring or you're designing or you're purchasing or you're in you can apply, any of this advice to any of those roles. So, but I would say two things.
Okay.
Number one, Simon Sinek has been a big, impact for me reading. Back to the nerd comment, right?
I started with him too.
Yeah. And I think you recommended Leaders Eat Last. I think that was one of the first books I read from him. But, to do it with a humble mindset, to serve on behalf of others. So if you are trying to accomplish something by making money or in sales, for example, commissions, and you're starting to do that, you are already sunk. It can't be me. It's got to be you, us. And that's what I say all the time, with our projects, with our teams. There's no way we could be adversaries. Like, we're in this together. Your goals are now my goals. And I mean it completely. And I will do anything I need to do in 24 hours that God provides me a day to do that. And I am going to lean on my incredible teammates. We've got a creative director. She's badass, amazing working mom, fit, healthy, happy, hardworking. Nothing is too hard for her. I don't know that she's human. Our owner, he has incredible family values, and he models that. He loves all his people. His mantra is, the answer is yes, what's the question?
Right.
He will flip the place upside down if we need to. Our CEO is just so good at keeping us all on task. He's brilliant. He's like a human computer. We've got some other teammates. Greg, our general manager, I think is his role. But we've got some other teammates. For example, he is just literally the nicest guy on the planet. He'll do anything that you need. He's even the one that makes sure the coffee pot's turned off and the lights are off and everything's safe at night. And so our group is so diverse and so different. But I think the thing why we have the lightning in the bottle and why we do so well is, Greg may be working with FF&Es. John may be working on financial stuff. Jake may be buying a building for us to fit more tufting equipment. Lisa may be doing 8,000 things with her awesome team that, by the way, is mostly women. And most of them have been with her for 5 to 15 plus years.
Speaks a lot with longevity like that.
And she was one of the first people to implement working from home. And she's like, the productivity and the happiness with these people's off the charts. And that worked for her and her team. We've got some other people that work in the office and they crush it there, but it's listening, that humble listening and meaning it. And so that's the thing. So I come in here and you've got a designer that needs something on a project. I'm not coming with any answers. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to do nothing. I'm coming to listen.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that some of that secret sauce is the people that you surround yourself with, because you can work yourself to the bone, but if you don't have the right people to work alongside, it's
Absolutely.
for nothing. Is that
Absolutely.
accurate?
Yeah, and then also the humbly listening and meaning it. And then the last thing is, I listened to a podcast recently that my best friend sent to me. It's the football coach of NC State, and it was all about children's sports and do you specialize and all-stars and all this stuff with where you're like, oh my gosh, this is getting really intense, and they're 7 and 9.
I am a baseball mom.
Right? And we leaned out of that this summer. And that was before I would have thought that was a failure. And I felt like it was a win. We got to ride bikes, we got to swim, we got to go on vacations. We just got back. I got to see 3 of the women that helped my mother raise me, and my cousins, and some of my childhood best friends, college best friends. Like, come on, that's what I'm talking about. So that felt like a win, whereas before that would have felt like a loss. But in his podcast, where he kind of cautioned against all the all-star specializing, it's all monetized, but he said, the secret is show up 5 minutes early, work harder than everybody next to you.
That would be really hard for me to be on time, but I'll take that as advice.
But for sports, okay?
Yes.
So that's maybe a little bit more specific for sports,
Yeah.
right? You don't have an airplane schedule that you're dealing with.
Okay, so show up early.
Show up early.
Work
Work
your ass
harder.
off.
Work harder than all the people next to
There you
you,
go.
and stay longer.
There you go.
So, basically model work ethic.
Yeah.
And I would say, and he said, if you do that, you'll be in the top 5% of whatever it is, sports, industry. And I feel like listening to that, I do that. Not always early. I might be there just in time. But whatever I'm doing, I fully apply my brain to. I am not texting. I'm not responding. I tell people, I don't live in email real time. Like I'll do it in batches. And that's so absurd to people. But I'm like, whatever I'm doing, I'm fully invested.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
anyway.
and we say here, things happen out of our control, but no one's going to work harder than us. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just putting in the work, and you do to anybody at any age. You still have to put the work in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that was left from another guest here this season on the Banko Buzz. If someone were trying to determine the real you, the real Dana, from an imposter, what question would they ask, and what would the answer be?
Okay. I think,
What would the question be?
so I think, how many bathrooms did you grow up with?
Okay. Like in your house, how many bathrooms did you grow up with?
Trick question. I lived sort of a tale of two lives.
Okay.
So my parents divorced when I was quite young, and my mom and my stepdad provided a suburban experience, went to church and, taught me how to do my taxes and, how to drive a car, and we'd walk the dog together and things like that. And my dad was a caretaker, and he had a cabin, and we had kerosene heaters and an outhouse. So no bathrooms in one
So
case.
none. Like you went in an outhouse?
In an outhouse. And when in the snow and
That makes you kind of badass. Maybe that's where some of your tenacity was spun
I
from.
think a lot of
When
grit.
you have to go out into the outside when it's cold,
Yeah.
like that'll build some character in a person.
That's right. I don't recommend it.
No,
but
I'm
also
not
like
doing
nothing
that.
is too like when you go and that was some of the least of the challenges that I grew up with, right? But like when you go through that stuff, like really hard stuff doesn't feel that hard.
Right. Well, but like you said, you have to do it. Like you just do it because you have to.
You get grit, and it's funny because I always said before I had kids, if I have kids, I want them to have grit. And then I got pregnant, had kids. I was like, just kidding. I don't want them to have any grit.
They take on, and they are modeling you, and we think you're amazing.
I think
and
you're
I
amazing.
can't thank you enough for coming on and chatting with me today
Yeah.
here at the Banko Buzz. So thank you for joining us. This was amazing. I hope that folks who know us in the industry at large got to know you a little bit better and enjoyed our conversation here about just putting the time in and the grit and all the things to make it happen. You're an inspiration to a lot of us, and we really appreciate you coming by today. So thanks.
Thanks. I adore you. The feeling is mutual.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining Banko Bees. Stay tuned for another episode coming up, and that's the Banko Buzz.